just going to work through the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme and the details involved with that. Please bear with me, there's a lot going on. I might refer to some notes because I don't want to miss anything out and leave something out that you guys might find important along the way. So first of all, who can make the claim? In order to make it, you need to have a PAYE scheme in place as of the 28th of February 2020. That's important for this, and a UK bank account. So make sure you tick those boxes before we even go anywhere. The scheme is open to anyone with a UK payroll entity that has a business, a charitable or a non-for-profit organisation, and even the public sector organisations. So it covers a wide remit of businesses. It was introduced by the government to support all the employees that were suddenly being made redundant in March due to the drop in the economy and the closure of most hospitality and leisure facilities at that time. So who can you claim for? Common question I've had is, can I claim for my apprentice? Yes, apprentices act as normal employees on this, so can be claimed for under the job retention scheme. The biggest factor that I think we found with a number of our clients is director managed businesses. So company directors, can they furlough themselves? The answer, and it is in the guidance that was updated on the 4th of April, is a definite yes, as long as you're not carrying out any work within your company or looking to provide services during that time. So company directors, important that you understand you need to have a PAYE scheme, you need to be paying yourself monthly salary or annual salary, something along those lines, that is reported on a PAYE scheme. But for company directors, you can furlough yourself as long as the company is not working. In respect of who you can claim for, you can claim for any employee that was on your payroll on or before 28th of February 2020. The important factor is anyone that has started working for you, or if you as an employee have started a job since the 28th of February, so 1st of March for example, unfortunately you're not available to be furloughed by the employer, and thus as an employee you would not receive any support at this moment in time. It's another one of those areas the government have had to draw a line in the sand somewhere, and they've drawn it on the 28th of February to enable people to not abuse the system, but it does mean that some people fall through the gaps. So employees can be on any sort of employment contract, so you could be full-time, part-time, 0 hours, any of those, but then you do qualify for support on the furlough scheme, so your employer can furlough you on any of those schemes. An important factor here is that anyone that is furloughed by their employer is not allowed to carry out any work for the business during that time. The period of furlough has to be a minimum of 3 weeks. So if you as an employer furlough someone, that period has to be of 3 weeks in order for you to claim support for the salary that you're paying them. A common question is it gross pay, is it net pay? All the payments to your employees during the furlough period are subject to normal tax and national insurance during that period. Another question we've been asked is, well, can I drop them to 50% and then the government make up the other 50%? That's a definite no. If they're working reduced hours, reduced days, they're not eligible to be furloughed because they're still working within the business in some capacity. To be furloughed, you are not allowed to do any work within the business. A key factor that's helped many employers and organisations is for anyone made redundant since the 28th of February, you can employ them again. You can re-employ them and put them on the furlough scheme, and the government will pay 80% of their wages. So if you have let someone go on, say, the 16th of March, you can re-employ them and get the support from the government to pay their wages whilst you retain their employment. It can be a massive lifesaver for that employee, but it can also mean that you've got someone that you didn't really want to let go, that is vital to your business, but due to cash flow at the time and not knowing that the government was going to bring this in, you've let them go, but now you can bring them back on 80%. They can sit at home in isolation safely. You know that you're going to get that money from the government to cover their wages, and when it's all over, you'll still have that decent employee to come back and work within your business. If an employee is on unpaid leave, as long as that unpaid leave is started after the 28th of February, then you can furlough them and make a claim for those individuals. Likewise, if anyone is shielding or in isolation, you can furlough them and make a claim for those people after the 28th of February. The other key thing is that if they're on sick leave, and you're claiming SSP, you can't also claim furlough, so they have to finish their sick leave period before you can furlough them and claim the furlough support. The government did bring in support for 2 weeks of SSP pay, so hopefully you're still getting repaid for that money before the furlough period starts. A really common question that we've had a lot on this is, can I work for another employer? I've got 2 jobs, one's furloughed me, am I allowed to do the other? The answer to this is yes. If one of your employers furloughs you, you're still allowed to work for the other one and still receive your furlough pay from the previous job that you've been furloughed from. Also, likewise, you can, as long as it doesn't interrupt your contract of employment with your current employer, you can obtain another job, which might be in a supermarket at this point in time, or something along those lines, as long as you fill out the correct starter checklist to ensure that it says, I have employment elsewhere. You should be taxed correctly, and there's nothing to stop you doing this whilst on furlough. Like I said, unless there's something in your contract of employment which prevents you taking on other employment whilst you're with that employer, because you are still effectively employed by the employer that's put you on furlough. All the same rules and regulations apply for maternity leave, paternity leave, etc. whilst you're in the furlough process, so there's no changes to those. Also, in order to agree the furlough, the employee has to receive written notification that they're on furlough, and the employer must retain a copy of this for 5 years, because this could be audited in regards to the claims you later make for the repayment of wages. And the employee must be fully aware that they're on furlough, and normally it's a case of writing to them and getting them to sign an agreement to say that they accept being on furlough and receive the 80% support from yourselves. There is no reason whatsoever that you cannot top this up to 100%. The government may only provide the 80%, but the employer, if they wish to be generous, can pay the additional 20% to ensure that the person on furlough is receiving 100% support whilst the business is closed or not working at the moment. So the important part, how much can you claim? You can claim for 80% of your employee's salary, up to a maximum of £2,500 for the month, and also the minimum automatic enrolment pension contributions that employee may pay. The grant received will be prorated if the furlough period is only for part of an actual pay period, so 3 weeks of a month. And also the grant claim will start from the date in which furlough actually begins, not the date the decision is made to be furloughed. So it is when the employee actually finishes work and becomes furloughed. Regulations surrounding the actual furloughing and the grant to be made is different depending on which sort of salary you're on. If you're on a full-time regular salary, then it will be 80% of that salary, up to a maximum of £2,500. If, however, the salary varies from month to month, which it can do in a lot of businesses and a lot of environments, then it is the average of the previous 12 months salary, or whatever they were paid for the corresponding month of the previous year. So if you were paid in April 2019, then you can also claim for the same as in April 2020, because obviously there's a lot of fluctuations in salaries and income depending on seasonal variations, and it may be that due to the coronavirus, wages and salaries have dropped considerably this April compared to the method it was calculated at in the previous year. On top of this, there are certain areas which are allowed, so people often ask the question, do commissions, bonuses, tips, etc. count? So the official wording on this per the government is that you can claim for any regular payments that you normally pay. This includes wages, past overtime, fees, compulsory commission payments. However, discretionary bonuses, including tips and commission payments and non-cash payments, are not to be included with any claims that you make in regards to the coronavirus job retention scheme. Another common theme that has occurred is if the employee has only just been working for the business for 6 months, how do they work out the salary in that respect? That is a pro rata of those 6 months, or if it's 3 months, the pro rata of the 3 months. Also, if the employee, which could happen, only started in February 2020, then it is a pro rata of the earnings received so far, and you claim 80% of that. So it's all quite calculated and detailed in the process, and hence why it can cause a lot of confusion if not completed correctly. The employer's national insurance will still need to be paid on all these payments made to employers, but you are able to make a claim for the employer's national insurance element of any payments made under the furlough for the 80% support. If you choose to top up the additional 20%, then any employer's national insurance in relation to this aspect will still need to be met by the business or the company itself. There will be no additional support from the government for the extra 20% that you choose to pay your employees if you do so. Okay, so how do we make this claim? In order to make the claim, there's various bits of information you need. So your PAYE reference number, the number of employees being furloughed, the claim period, the start and end date, the amount claimed per minimum length of furloughing of 3 consecutive weeks, your bank account number and sort code, your contact name and your phone number. So all of these will be required in order to make the claim to the HMRC when the portal opens. At this moment in time, there is no system or portal opened. We envisage, per HMRC guidance, they say that they believe it will be there towards the end of April. We believe it is more likely to be the beginning of May. By the time they've audited and checked and processed, we believe that payments will not be making it to the bank accounts of yourselves or the employers until middle to late May. So in that respect, it will mean that the cash flow will be needed within the business in order to make the April payments for wages of employees that have been furloughed before any money comes back in from the government. You need to bear this in mind for any cash flow thoughts or processes you're going through at the moment, that there is unlikely to be support from this scheme to pay the wages until at least May. The claim being made should be through the payroll figures that you've calculated, and you should be adjusting the payment elements to show separately the 80% of the salary before taking away the tax and national insurance, which is still to be paid to HMRC. So hopefully within your payroll processes, you're either separating out the furlough element if it's a pro rata month, or you're reducing all the payments by 80% before processing the figures through the payroll. In regards to the grant being received, this is a taxable income in regards to the business, the company, and the wages going out are treated as an expense still within your expenses. The money being supported by the HMRC, the government, for the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme is an income, and the two should cancel each other out. So there won't be an additional tax amount payable than there would have been, because all the government are doing is putting money in for you to pay money out in effect. I appreciate there's been a lot involved with the Coronavirus Job Retention Scheme, and there's a lot going on with it. The important factors is that company directors do qualify as long as they're ticking the right boxes. Employees that are on the furlough scheme can't do any work for you. The minimum period is 3 weeks. If you do need any more advice, assistance, then feel free to give us a shout, and hopefully we'll be able to help. Thanks very much.